Hello, my name's Alan Boyd, and my website is blacksneoconsiraqwar.com. This is video 1, Divide and Conquer, how the neoconservatives like Mike Huckabee, Megyn Kelly, Sean Hannity, Joe Scarborough, Liz Cheney, and Elizabeth Hackabee offer a double standard to blacks while pretending to fight against it in order to manipulate blacks to support the American troops in Iraq. This article examines how blacks are given a double standard when it comes to black victimization, but not without having to overlook the horrible things that have occurred in Iraq and going along with a corrupt economic system in America. Explained in abolishpropertytaxes.com, my other website I'd love for you to read. I'm going to focus on one issue at first and try and link it to many threads throughout American politics. When the Iraq War was being debated back in 2002, the group that was most opposed to it appeared to be African Americans. So if the war went horribly bad, which it did, one might think African Americans would be at the forefront, speaking out against the unjust pain inflicted on the Iraqis, who had no voice in America. During slavery, African Americans had no voice in America and were being unjustly treated. Blacks in America did not speak out much at all after the war began. If they had, it could have empowered others to do so. So blacks helped increase the leverage the neocons had in crushing those who were against the war, even though it was causing so much suffering in Iraq. It made it much easier for neocons in America, like talk show hosts Bill O'Reilly and Sean Hannity, to shut down the opposition using fear. One example was the University of Colorado professor Ward Churchill, who lost his job for speaking out against the United States. If someone thinks it would be easy to speak out against something like slavery when it was in effect, does not understand how the world works. The slave owners did a lot of business and hired many people, so it was not easy to threaten the main source of their wealth. Today, many people in the United States want the United States in the Middle East. So, from a political standpoint, those opposed to the war stand to receive more political power by toning their voices down, not saying anything, or changing sides and supporting the war. This is because the Iraqis don't have a major voice or lots of power in America, and the neocons do. If one does not understand why so much evil occurs in this world without people being held accountable, this article will help you understand why with an example from our own generation. Neocons already had the system rigged so that blacks would support America after the war started. With divide and conquer, blacks get things they want, like a double standard, and more at stake in the United States, while allowing for the neocons to conquer without interference from blacks and enjoy an economy that favors the haves. The end result is that Iraqis and blacks now appear to be divided, with blacks supporting the troops and Iraqis not supporting the American troops. Neocons set this up decades in advance. I will explain how I first became aware of the double standard decades ago, but first I must explain how divide and conquer took place in the past and how it is working now. I'll do that in the next two paragraphs. Paragraph number 1. The Middle East is sub-Sahara Africa's only neighbor. They were both divided and conquered by the West in a similar fashion. The borders for their country were drawn up with a majority religion tribe sect and a minority religion tribe sect. The minority group was given power, like the Sunnis in Iraq. Because the smaller group had power, they were dependent on support from the West to maintain control over the majority. This is huge because these nations that were now officially independent from the West still had to fall in line with Western powers or risk losing the West's support and being overthrown. Saddam Hussein, when he fought our enemy Iran in the 1980s, could be an example of this. When the Sunnis and Shia began fighting after the current war began, the root cause of the fighting was set up in the past to keep the Middle East weak. Many admitted the best solution was to divide Iraq into three parts to end religious and ethnic violence, but that would have made Iran too powerful. The pain being caused today in Iran is still America's fault because we put our own interests first inside countries that belong to other human beings. We need to allow the people of Iraq to draw their own borders, not us. We are still forcing Iraq to have borders that were set up to hurt them, and they are doing a great job of just that. People who act like America had no way of knowing the infighting would occur in Iraq appear to be deceptive. After all, George Bush 43 had the Shia attack the Sunnis after the first Iraq War. Over 3,000 Shia were killed by Saddam and his troops. The U.S. lied after offering to come to their aid. Neocons love to talk about the sons of Ishmael in Genesis being the root of terrorism, but rarely mention the West using divide and conquer in the Middle East. And that's the end of part one. I hope you'll join me for part two.